everyone. 4 o'clock straight up, a Tuesday edition of Back Your Play, coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio studios. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up on this 26th of April 2022. Hope everyone had a good sports weekend and you are trying to enjoy your Tuesday. Don't forget the 609-445-1490. That'll get you involved in two-way sports talk. Bring something to the table. And it is indeed, without a doubt, a busy show as we dive heavy into the NBA playoffs. You've got baseball. The Mets keep on winning. We'll dive into the NL and AL East, respectively. And you got the draft right around the corner. And by the way, for everyone always chiming in live today on the YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q, you can just Google. We appreciate it. As always, you can hashtag BYP to get into the conversation. So what I was saying is that with everything going on in the world of sports, and I kind of talked about this pre-show with Q's cuts, it's amazing to me in sports where you can be the better team. You can have the better players. You can have the better coaching. You can have the all-stars. But at the end of the day, it's almost like a moot point if you don't have a belief, if you don't have a confidence, if you don't believe that you're the best players or team on the floor, on the field, on the ice. And that's what we're seeing right now with the Philadelphia 76ers. And now you're starting to get into the situation where you're up 3-0. All right, you want to put these guys away. What happens? You can't close them out. And they always say it's so tough to close out any team in a series, that closeout game. So you lose a game 4. All right, no panic. But it starts to creep in your mind, especially with a head coach in Doc Rivers, who has a penchant for blowing 3-1 leads. We've seen this in the past. So you come back last night, favored at home in Philly, and you promptly go out, and not only do you not even show up, but you get waxed at home, and your two best players are pretty much non-existent in a 103-88 loss to Toronto, who now finds themselves trailing in this series 3-2 with an all-important Game 6 Thursday night in Toronto. And I'll say this, if you're the Sixers, if you're a Sixers fan right now, oh my goodness, you know, the confidence level of, am I going to choke? Are we going to be able to get to a Game 7? Is it panic time? Are you freaking kidding me? Here we go again? Or is it, no, I'm still confident? And rest assured, I don't know how you can be confident. I don't know how you wouldn't or why you wouldn't be panicking right now. After last night where the bench of Toronto contributed nicely, where Siakam went off for 23, where Barnes gave you 12, where Trent Jr. gave you a couple big threes to finish with 16. And on the Sixers side of the ball, well, let's see. The big man Embiid, 20 and 11. Bunch of turnovers, foul trouble, hurt him throughout. Maxey, 12. Were we not kind of waxing poetic about Maxey, myself included? James Harden, who you traded Ben Simmons to from the Brooklyn Nets, gave you 15, 4 of 11. We kind of know this story before, do we not? 11 field goals. 11 shots. Ben Simmons is sitting there in Brooklyn, can't even get on the floor for 5 minutes. And you almost felt like he's giving you more than James Harden has for the Philadelphia 76ers. And Simmons, I'll get into. And this is where you're at. You're staring down the barrel right now of a potential Game 7 if the Sixers can't right the ship and figure it out Thursday night in what should be a raucous crowd in Toronto. And Doc Rivers, you might say this is reprimandum on Doc Rivers' career as a head coach, because a lot of people think he's top 10 all time, or wherever you guys want to stick him. And the Sixers are laying 1.5 as we speak. 1.5. The total's 209 going into this game, tip-off 7, which means Sixers fans will probably be sweating when Toronto races out to a 12-2 lead 4 minutes into the game. We've seen this before. We saw him choke last year in a bad loss to Minnesota. We saw him choke to the Clippers, and then ultimately we saw them basically complete one of the all-time great colossal choke jobs against the Hawks. And in a choke series, too. So this is nothing new, right? This is nothing new with this squad. You got to learn how to have that killer instinct, man. You got to learn how to be able to put a team away. I mean, come on, you go back to Game 5 last year against the Hawks. And after they crashed back down to earth, right, with that Game 4 loss, they were listed as a 7.5-point favorite. I think it's 7 of 8 books. They were favored in games 1 and 4 as well. Neither of those went according to plan. And then here you are again this year against Toronto, which I think a lot of people thought was going to be a tricky series. It's a playoff tested. It's a veteran team, but they have a mix of young guys, and they're just not going away. And that's got to scare you. They're just not going away. And if you're Doc Rivers, you got to figure out how in the hell can we make adjustments, right? Adjustments. What do we need to do? What do we need to do? And right now, they don't have answers, man. They don't have answers. And that's the problem when you're a Sixers fan, because when you have Joel Embiid basically come out when they start to talk about James Harden's lack of shots and the fact that, he's been quiet this series, which, again, are we surprised by this? And Embiid basically says, well, that's kind of, I don't need to implore this guy to shoot. It's kind of on the coach. Look, and I get it. Embiid wants James Harden to be more aggressive. Embiid wants James Harden to engage himself more on the floor. And you want to see that instant offense. You want to see James Harden maybe turn back the clock a little bit, maybe revert back to being a guy that maybe gives you 25, 28, who knows, has one of those explosive games. But the head coach, once again, is nowhere to be found. And that's the problem, man. And I don't have a problem with Embiid blasting the refs after a Game 4 loss. Who cares? We get the MRI with the thumb. We kind of already knew that surgery after the season. Embiid's not going to use that as an excuse because he just doesn't. That's not who he is. But you have a player in James Harden that has made more money than God in his NBA career, and he's got zero will to win. None. He doesn't have it in him. James Harden doesn't have that killer instinct, right? The likes of the Shaqs, the Kobes, the Michael Jordans, even LeBron James to some extent, who deferred early on in his career and then realized, I got to start taking the shot, man. This is what I get paid to do. That's not James Harden. James Harden wants no parts of the basketball late. And we've seen this throughout the course of his career. We saw it early in his career. We obviously saw it with the Rockets so many times, especially in the fourth quarter in Game 7 collapses and failures. And we're seeing it right now with the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, you made that move specifically for this moment. You had to get rid of the waste that is Ben Simmons, that's beyond softer than Sharman. I don't want to hear this nonsense all of a sudden, too. He's still got these mental blocks. That's BS. I don't want to hear that nonsense from James Harden, from Ben Simmons. Stop. I'm over that clown. I'm done with him. But you made the move because you figured James Harden was going to be that instant offense, that instant, he's going to give you something. And he's not. He's not. It's like a quiet 17 and a half, a quiet 18. You need more from James Harden. You need stuff from Embiid. You need more. You need more from Maxey. You need more from the bench. And right now, Toronto is showing you they're more hungrier. The Sixers, you can't let these guys off the hook, man. When you have an opportunity to close out a team, you close out a team. The anxiety level of the Sixers fan will be at an all-time high. You cannot, under any circumstances, lose game 6 to Toronto to force a game 7. You can't. Game 3, Toronto's been playing the better basketball. They've been playing the better basketball, and the head coach will get shuttled to the airport out of town if they lose the series, which then all of a sudden there's speculation as well. Jay Wright, here we go. Dream job. Just retired. Great career in Nova. Multiple championships, an all-time great. Well-dressed, well-groomed, well-spoken. Let me take a little time to relax and recoup. And maybe that Sixers job might become available. I'm just throwing it out there. We always love to speculate. You cannot, under any circumstances, if you are the Philadelphia 76ers, lose game 6. Because if it goes to a game 7, all bets are off. Especially with James Harden's track record. Especially with Doc Rivers, who all he does is choke. That's all this guy does. I don't care how many wins you've had in your career. I don't care about that, man. Now you've got the pieces in place, and you can't get by Toronto? I mean, I actually heard the nerve, the gall of some people. Well, I want the Sixers to lose a game so they can close in Philly. What? Are you out of your mind? Are you kidding me? That's almost as dumb as the argument you left too much time. No, you score when you can score. Unless it's Buffalo and Kansas City and you leave 13 seconds for Mahomes. But that's besides the point. Man, I'm telling you right now, I don't know how you can be confident if you're a Sixers fan. I don't know how you can have confidence in this squad, in this team, and for them going up to Toronto for a game 6. We know they won't be playing the Brooklyn Nets. Now, you want to talk about rolling over like a bunch of dogs? I give you the Brooklyn Nets, a team. And by the way, plus 240. Lakers plus 400 preseason to win the championship, NBA Finals. You go back April 4th, Bucks, Nets, Celtics, Heat / Sixers. Those were kind of your front runners, at least come out of the Eastern Conference. So then you got the Brooklyn Nets. And you want to talk about rolling over like a bunch of dogs. I mean, the fact that Ben Simmons, and I don't know why people actually subscribe to this theory. I don't know why people actually thought for a moment that Ben Simmons was going to be able to play in this series when you just knew he didn't have that toughness, that mental fortitude. I mean, all you want, maybe go out there and give me 5, 6, 7 minutes. I get it, man. You're banged up. Are you hurt or are you injured, in the words of Parcells? But give me 5 minutes, man. You're not going to be a liability on the floor. Kind of uplift your teammates. Show them, hey, I'm in this for the long haul. I'm going to fight through this. Nothing. Zilch. Nada. This guy is as soft can be. I mean, he is maybe the most gifted / softest athletes we've seen over the last 30, 35 plus years. Maybe in the history of sports. I don't know. But he got his wish. He got out of Philadelphia. And all we heard was he's mentally ready. Here we go. Dealing with some injuries, but he could go. He's a gamer. Really? I mean, that was easy money. Nobody believed that Simmons was going to play. And ultimately, it didn't matter because Durant had a crappy series. I don't care about 39 last night. Kyrie is an enigma at times. And they just wilted in a 116-112 loss to the Boston Celtics where, oh, by the way, let's get the brooms out. You just got swept. In a series where I think everyone say at full strength, the Nets, rightfully so, arguably so, should have been favored. And what do they have to show for? Nothing. They've got nothing to show for once again. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. So the player the Sixers couldn't wait to get rid of in exchange for the player that they coveted, one of them didn't even play and got swept in the playoffs. The other one is most likely going to be a no-show again in a game 6 and 7. And if the Sixers lose, what's going to be the conversation in the offseason when we talk about max deals? What's going to be the conversation in the offseason when we talk about, do you keep Doc Rivers or you're wasting Embiid's prime? It has been malpractice from the get-go. So you got one team already bounced and another team that they lose Thursday night. Oh, my goodness. You want to talk about tightening up. Ha! Have fun with that one, Sixers fans. All right, 18 past 4 o'clock hour, just cranking up on a Tuesday edition of Back Your Play. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. Rich Quinones here. Johnny Mac on the other side. We'll see if we can track him down for a couple moments. We'll get his thoughts on the NBA, the Sixers, and also the NFL draft, which is Thursday night, right around the corner. You guys can tweet at me at RichQ on Q, hashtag BYP. Keep it locked in on a Tuesday down the shore, 26th of April, 2022, right here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio.
Have you worked up an appetite yet? Glad to tell you about Gary's.
All right, we got to get Johnny Mac on now.
Which is all they said. They do a great job and have been for many years there. 831.
You guys locked in.
Pleasantville. It's the place to meet.
So as I mentioned, we were going to start with the Sixers, which is where we're at.
Quesadilla, $12.29. Belgian waffle, boys, that again, $12.25. Eggs Benedict, $12.89. If you want crab meat, $15.29. And how about this one? One of my favorites, stuffed French toast, $12.29. That's Gary's, open from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day, holidays included. They will be open on New Year's Day. Gary's, we will. If you want directions or anything, you can call them 609-383-9980. 609-383-9980. The place to meet where all the locals love to eat.
Hello, New Jersey. Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch. They have licensed agents available 24/7.
About the weather, by the way, too, right?
But having a trusted insurer could make you question some.
Weather is constantly changing.
Which, well, if you switch to Geico,
I don't know if that's always a good thing.
you could keep saving by bundling the motorcycle,
I don't care about the
boat, RV,
blinds.
house with home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might make you so happy you start
And, like,
to skip everything,
it gets-
which could get you an
Gets
ATM.
shady in here, right?
But that is a nickname. Think on it.
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app. you can
So
use
we'll see if we can
to
track down
verify
Johnny Mac
or add a new driver.
for a couple
And
moments.
discounts to military and federal employees.
But when your life gets a little easier, it makes you too carefree and you end up going very everywhere, which is all fun and games until you step on a bee.
Well, Geico is the largest car insurer in the state and has been saving.
So, like I said, a lot of NFL draft right around the corner. So we want to dive into that with John, too.
It's obviously a good idea. The Atlantic City Beer and Music Festival, presented by
So, plus baseball today as well. So you guys can chime in, like I said, at Rich Q on Q.
Over 150 brewery carnival fun, local grub vendors, and live music from Alkaline Trio, Newfound Glory, Thrice, and 4 Years Strong. 2 sessions, Saturday, June 4th, 2 to 6 p.m. Sunday, June 5th, 12 to 4 p.m. Tickets and info at acbeerfest.com.
Shore Physicians Group now offers OBGYN midwifery services at 2605 Shore Road in Northfield. Certified midwives Joanna McGrath and Maggie Stanley offer a full range of women's primary health care services in obstetrics and gynecology, from puberty and pregnancy to menopause and beyond. For an appointment, call 609-365-5300. Visit shorephysiciansgroup.com.
All right. Just push this back a little.
You're listening to Back Your Play with Q on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio.
All right, 22 past the 4 o'clock hour. We'll take you up to 609-445-1490. We're testing out the YouTube channel, so I wave to everyone and see what you guys are doing today. Keep it locked in. We're fiddling around. We're doing some tests. As always, you guys can chime in at RichQ on and you can hashtag BYP. We'll see if we can get Johnny Mack in a couple moments, and we will talk a little NFL with him. I definitely want to get his thoughts on the NBA. He's covered the NBA. He's had his own opinion when it's come to the Philadelphia 76ers, because everyone at the time was talking about the process this, process that. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I'm telling you right now, they better not lose a game 6, because, as they say, that is a heavy matzo ball. All bets will be off, and it will certainly get a little dicey. All right, let's see if we can punch up. Our guy, John McMullen, covers the NFL at JF McMullen, NFL Eagles Insider, and, of course, Birds 365 show, SI Now. Philly voice, kind enough to join us. Football in the 20s on a Tuesday. Johnny Mack, are you there?
I am here, Rich. That's potential game 7. That's a big matzo ball.
Yeah, that would be a bad situation if you're the Philadelphia 76ers and you lose that game in Toronto on Thursday night, and then you're forced to play a game 7. Look, we've seen this before, right? With this team and this franchise with these choke jobs. We've seen it throughout the regular season. We saw it last year against the Hawks. How much pressure you think right now is on Doc Rivers? Because I would not want to lose that game 6, and ultimately, if you lose a game 7, I mean, look, we've seen it. He's tightened up in the past. So how about Doc going into potential game 7 if they lose this game 6?
Yeah, no NBA team has ever had a 3-0 lead and lost. So, I mean, that would be it for Doc Rivers. So there's no question. There's a ton of pressure on him to win this series, put away the Toronto Raptors. But I don't know. I can't blame that performance yesterday on Doc Rivers. I mean, that was just awful for everybody on the floor. I mean, what happened to Tyrese Maxey? What happened to James Harden? We know Joel Embiid is injured, but even Joel, it's a criminal, indictable offense in the Delaware Valley to criticize him, Rich. Used to be that way with Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
And people came to their senses. Guy's a turnover machine when he's not.
Oh, no doubt.
Right at the end of the game.
Yep.
Career. He's part of the problem. I go back to the Atlanta series, and, everybody gets lost in the Simmons stuff, and understandably so. Why? But you remember the Danny Green injury? What that had? It was just a role player. But this team has no depth whatsoever. So when something bad happens, in this case, Embiid's thumb, and he's obviously not the same player, it just seems like, the stool and 3-leg, boom, you kick one out and it's over. And it could be as simple as a role player to have no bench. So, you look at it long term, even if they put this team away, you've seen the flaws. This is not a championship team.
No, they're not a championship team, but I think the expectations when they made the move to trade Ben Simmons to the Nets for James Harden was, you make this move because you think you're going to make a deep run in the playoffs and potentially get past the Torontos, the Bostons, the Milwaukees, and maybe even, I just said Brooklyn, but the Boston Celtics and whatnot, Miami Heat, and at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals, let alone the NBA Finals. And look, this guy's just not a winner, man. I mean, James Harden is not a winner. He's not a clutch player. He never has been. He never will be. It's his MO. It'll be on his epitaph. Here lies James Harden, averaged 35 in a season and choked in game 7. I mean, Yeah.
I will say this, as bad as James was, and he was terrible.
Yeah.
In Game 5 there, there's no defending that. It's still better to have James Harden than Ben Simmons. So I'm not going to criticize him for the trade, but I will say, in a lot of ways, it's interesting because he came over with a reputation of being a great scorer.
Yeah.
To me, since he's got to the Sixers, he's spending too much time distributing, and he's worried about getting other people involved. So he's got, especially without Embiid being healthy, he's got to take over these games offensively, and hopefully that clicks. They need a 35 spot from James Harden.
That's not happening. Yeah, 35. I mean, if you got 28, that would be nice, but you're not going to get to turn back the clock. And if that's the case, Johnny Mac, then he's got to turn around and he's got to shoot more than 11 times in a game. He's probably going to have one of those 18 for 36.
I mean, he's acting like a distributor. And he's great. He never got credit for that early in his career, and he's probably not the same player, not probably Stephen. But, people would call him selfish. He was actually always a very good passer, always had the ability to distribute the basketball. And now I think he's doing it to the detriment of the team because they don't have the scorers. And you see it with Matisse Thybulle. I mean, that's talking about an embarrassing performance, and now he can't play again. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, this organization is a mess, and they don't have the shooters or the guys capable of scoring in big games outside of a healthy Embiid, outside of Harden, and outside of Tyrese Maxey if he's hurt. But you've even seen with Maxey, people are skipping steps with him after game 1. They're anointing him. They're coming, as Dennis Green would say. He's not a star. And stars are consistent. And he's been really, really bad in games 4 and 5. So you need
Yep.
Tyrese Maxey and James Harden.
All right, NFL draft is Thursday. Obviously, it's right around the corner. So, per odds checker, you has the best odds for who's going to go first. Trayvon Walker, all of a sudden, minus 190. Hutchinson, plus 250. Ekwonu, plus 650. Evan Neal, plus 3,300. KT, plus 5,000. I'll get your thoughts on who you think should and who deserves to go number 1. But, I think it's interesting, the first 3 draft picks, right? Jacksonville. You think offensive line to protect Trevor Lawrence. Detroit, maybe you want that edge rusher. And then you look at the Texans. Maybe you want to go defense as well. And then you sit there with the Jets and the Giants. We'll get to the Eagles in a moment. Who do you believe will go number 1 come Thursday?
Well, I think Walker's most likely to go number 1. But I will say this. If you want to win some money, I would put a few shekels down on it.
Shekels.
Ekwonu and Jacksonville. Trent Baalke was pretty honest and said it was down to 4 players, and that was essentially Walker and Hutchinson at edge rusher, Neal and Ekwonu at the offensive tackle. So ultimately, if you know anything about Trent Baalke, he's going to go upside, and that to me narrows the field down to Walker versus Ekwonu. And Trent would probably want to take Walker, and he's the guy in charge. But Doug Peterson would always default to the offensive lineman. And maybe there's some goodwill for him coming down as the first-time head coach. Maybe they want to do him a solid. Maybe they want to show we're going to be behind you. And maybe they default to Doug Peterson. And if that's the case, I think it's going to be Ike Ekwonu, and people can win some money. So there might be a little outside shot that the Jaguars, throw out a big spread.
All right, when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, I guess a lot of people think there's a variety of ways that they can go. I mean, logic would say you've got young wide receivers on the roster. Maybe you take a chance. I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of draft boards now with this kid Williams, the wide receiver, Alabama. What say you? Where should they go, and who do you think is that first pick for them?
Well, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be very similar to last year when they did a targeted trade up for Devontae Smith. Not going to be a way leap up. I know Ian Rappaport said some things about moving up to 5 or 6. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. It's going to be more like leaping over Baltimore at 14, maybe with Houston at 13, who, the Texans have indicated they wouldn't mind trading out already to get Jordan Davis, the big defensive tackle from Georgia. Jonathan Gannon's been looking for that type of player. The Eagles want that type of player, a true 0-1 technique. Think Vita Vea in Tampa, guy who can occupy blockers. All the Eagles defensive tackles don't do that. They're all Javon Hargrave, very poor at that. Fletcher Cox is a 3 technique. Milt Williams is undersized. They want that type of player. And there aren't many opportunities to get it. If you don't get Jordan Davis, then you got to wait for Travis Jones, who's probably not good enough to take at 18, but there's no way he's going to be there at 51. And then you just don't have that player again. You're having the same problem. So I think Davis is the guy the Eagles are targeting. Doesn't mean they can get him. I think they have to get ahead of Baltimore because I think Baltimore will take him. So I think we can see sort of a replay of last year, a small move up.
Which would not shock me. I mean, this is, again, we've seen this before. This is, to some extent, Howie's MO when we think about it. I'm wondering, I'm sitting here looking at the Jets at 4, the Giants at 5. Interesting enough, well, not surprising about Daniel Jones in that 5th-year option. It's very rare you would see one of those teams kind of swap each other out, so to speak, 4 and 5, 5 and 4, respectively. I look at the Jets, and I think the Jets, if anything, are probably going to go offensive line. And I've kind of been screaming down the street for years with the Giants offensive line, but I also want the Giants to go with a pass rusher. Now, let's just say everything holds to form and Jags go Neal, Lions go Hutchinson, Texans go the kid Kayvon, the edge rusher. The Jets and Giants are sitting there. The Jets aren't going to take a quarterback at 4. But you have the Giants. And again, I know what they said in Carolina with Darnold. And let's just say Pickett's on the board. Can you foresee a scenario where the Giants draft another quarterback? And if that's the case, Kenny Pickett?
No, I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're that hot. Teams, let's be honest, aren't that high on the quarterbacks. I did my one and only mock draft today. It's on Sports Illustrated. I ended up first quarterback off the board at 20 to Pittsburgh, the most obvious spot. This is just not a well-regarded class. And I think people are getting a little bit more disciplined around the league and understanding. You can really set your organization back years if you reach for the wrong quarterback early in the draft. I think you hit the nail on the head with the Jets and the Giants, and that's offensive line. And the good news is because they're 4 and 5, and there's 3 tackles worthy of being up there, they're probably each going to be able to get one. Now, to me, the Jets are the more – I think the Giants are going offensive line at 5.
Okay, makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, you mentioned the first quarterback. I mean, if it's not Pickett and you got Pittsburgh sitting there, man, I'm trying to spitball here. Who's the quarterback? Ritter? You got Desmond Ritter going to Pittsburgh?
to take the first quarterback off the board, and they're going to take Malik Willis. And he's got the biggest upside, and that's who they should take. Then you have Tennessee, which I think is an interesting spot. I think a lot of people don't realize how close Mike Vrabel and Luke Fickell are.
Right.
Best friends. And they also have the luxury of time. They can give them some time with Ryan Tannehill. He doesn't have to stay. It's a good football team. I think that's a good fit for him. And I think Pickett's going to fall 32. Need an heir apparent for Jared Goff, or somebody else trades up and they want to trade out. Somebody's going to take Pickett at 32.
Interesting.
I don't have any of the quarterbacks going to until 20 overall.
Okay.
I think the Jets are going to go offensive tackle or edge rusher. I know Joe Douglas loves Jermaine Johnson, so that might surprise people. And I think the Giants they're going to go for 5, and then your team, Rich. I think Thibodeau is going to be there for him anyway at 7.
Oh, that would be fantastic. That would be fantastic because look, that's what they're lacking, right? They, especially in the fourth quarter and games over the years, right? They just never had that pass rusher. They haven't had it in so many years when they used to have the Tucks and the Strahams, the Kiwanukas and the Human Euros. So if that kid's on the board, you dress offensive line, you get a pass rusher, and away you go. Any other surprises and or maybe sleepers, or just are we going to sit here on Friday and say, wow, I did not see coming?
A lot of uncertainty at the top of the draft. There typically isn't that much uncertainty. You kind of know where the players are going to go. You kind of know who the top 20 players are going to be, but you don't know what teams like, what flavor they like. And, I think, as I said, I think you can start with Jacksonville right at the top. I think they could surprise people. Atlanta, I hear a lot of – I don't know why Atlanta wants a wide receiver, because they don't have a vehicle to get a wide receiver to football in Marcus Mariota. But it seems like they're hell-bent on getting a receiver, and they like Drake London. I wouldn't take Drake London in the top 10, but they look like they want to take him. And then Washington at 11, you start talking about these receivers. I think Jameson Williams will go to the Jets at 10 unless they trade out. And then 11, you got both Ohio State kids, and everybody in D.C. thinks they like Chris Olave better than Garrett Wilson, which surprised.
Yeah. Wow. At 9, yeah. I've seen a couple mocks, and I tend to agree, lean towards Stingley actually falling at 9 to Seattle. You go back, they haven't used a first-round pick on a corner since 2006. Again, man, he's too talented enough to pass up, so to speak. So I listen, they pass up on a quarterback, right? Maybe they take one in the second round, or here's another one, right? Maybe they try to make a play for Baker Mayfield. So now you got your corner in the first round, you got your veteran quarterback. Yep. No doubt. Yeah. No. Or Darnold. Interesting. Yeah. Yep. Great points. Of course, Johnny Mack at JF McMullen, NFL Eagles Insider, Birds 365, SI Now, Philly Voice, Football 24/7. Of course, football in the 20s every Tuesday with me. Always appreciate it, my friend. Enjoy the draft Thursday. You got the Sixers, Raptors. Oh, my goodness. I can just imagine what's going to happen when they lose that game 6 come Friday. Yeah, it's a little matzo ball, my friend. Oh, my goodness. There you have it. Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, hey, listen, I mean, I don't know who's given more, James Harden or Ben Simmons for their respective teams. So who knows? All right, listen, you have a good week, my friend. I always appreciate a couple moments. All right, you got it. There you have it, my guy. Johnny Mack, John McMullen. Good stuff. Quick timeout. 4:43. We'll close out the channel as well. In about 20, we'll take you up to 6. But we'll close out hour number 1 as well. So keep it locked in at Rich Q on Q, hashtag BYP. Seeing you guys already chiming in. So we'll dive into that too.
BetMGM presents the Sports Flash on
good stuff, Johnny Mack.
Sports Betting
We
Radio.
are
Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher Trevor
still
Bauer has filed suit Monday
going
against
to
the
fix
San
this
Diego woman who had accused him of sexual assault. He
for
claims
future
defamation
shows.
as he looks for unspecified
Will most likely
monetary
be in the home
punitive
studio
damages. He continues to be on
this week.
administrative leave, unable to participate with the Dodgers and in Major League Baseball. NBA basketball tonight, 3 more playoff games on the docket. Hawks and Heat play in Miami. Miami leads that series 3-1, so a win, and the Heat advance 2 other games in series that are even 2-2. Timberwolves at the Grizzlies, and the Pelicans and Suns will match up against each other in Phoenix. BetMGM Sports. Place your parlays, props, and futures bets at the King of Sportsbooks. Get the app today. I'm Matt Pauley on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio.
I'm Seth Grossman for libertyandprosperity.com.
I don't feel like hearing this commercial. So interesting takes right there by Johnny Mack talking about the draft. I think the Giants definitely go offensive line. I would prefer if they went pass rusher first, and then maybe you can capture that offensive line second draft pick. Either way, they definitely need a pass rusher. They need to solidify the line. That's something that Gettleman hasn't been able to do. That's one of the reasons he's no longer a GM. And then you got this thought about Kadarius Toney being traded, which is absolutely absurd. I understand when you question somebody's work ethic, and the kid's talented. I mean, if anything, you got nothing from Kenny Golladay after giving him a monster contract, no touchdowns, a couple of receptions. Slayton's regressed. Evan Ingram was a major problem, and Saquon couldn't stay healthy. So, and by the way, they talk about Saquon coming back and he's tired of the BS. You know what? That's all well and good, but until you prove it otherwise, I don't want to hear from you anymore, Saquon. I don't. I root for you. I want you to do well, but my goodness, man. I mean, you're tired of the BS. Then go out and stop being injured. Learn how to pass protect and pass block as a running back. Catch the ball out of backfield. Show me that burst. Show me that burst. Where was that burst from a couple years ago? It's tough because you've been snake bitten with so many injuries. So that happens sometimes. All right, we'll get to some tweets as well. Playing with my microphone in here. Haha. Little guy peeking out. All right, 447. Appreciate Johnny Mac for a couple moments. Rich Quinones here. We'll give you some plays in baseball. We'll go around the league, around the diamond with some odds. Good stuff from Johnny Mac on the draft as well. By the way, first pitch tonight, you're looking at 635 for some of these games. Brewers and Pirates, Milwaukee 175 on the money line. Pods in the red, San Diego minus 160. Padres 10-7 early on. We told you the Reds were going to be a bad team. That's why we played the under this year. How about the Rockies 10-6? And then the Phillies, who I told you needed to come and get out of that, jump off to a good start. And it's just been bad, man. It has not been good. And I have no problem with what Schwarber did in the loss the other night. They bounced back with an 8-2 win over Colorado. That's great, but they have dropped 5 out of 7 overall. So they've got some issues. The Mets meet the Mets 13-5. Break up the Mets. Are you kidding me? Oh, my goodness. Red hot the Metropolitans have been. So we'll go around the league a little bit in the 5 o'clock hours I mentioned. I want to get to some tweets. So I asked you guys as far as your panic level or your confidence level in this. And OJ chimes in. Toronto's been a better squad since Game 3. History tells us it won't get to Saturday, but this is a strange one. It's hard for fans to feel confident if the team isn't behaving that way. The anxiety in the city will be at an all-time high. That's going on the premise that they lose Game 6 to force Toronto does a Game 7. David chimes in. I'm so confident the Sixers can get the job done on the road because, as we know, it's always hard to win on the road in the playoffs. JD chimes in. I'm expecting full-blown panic mode right now. As you said, Q, it is time to freaking panic. Angel chimes in on Twitter at RichQ on Q. Rich, you've been talking about James Harden for how many years now, and you're 100% correct. The guy's not only has zero desire or will to win, he is soft as well. He might even be softer than Ben Simmons when you think about it. No thanks. I will pass on both of those guys. And Shine chimes in as well. I've been talking about this. I've been preaching it. No one's been listening to me. It doesn't matter what you give or you surround Embiid with. It's always going to fall on the head coach. Get Doc out of here. That is interesting, too, because all of a sudden, people now, they want Doc out, right? That's what happens. They want Doc out, and they're waiting to see what's going to happen. So, listen, I don't know if the Sixers go and they lose this series, and let's just say they get blown out on Thursday night, and then you come back in a Game 7 and they blow a lead in that game. Or, you get kind of like a Kawhi Leonard type of shot a couple years ago that we saw, like a heartbreaking, lucky, an all-time great shot, and they lose late. How much is it going to be on Doc Rivers, right? How much will it fall on Doc? I don't know. I really don't. First things first, handle your business Thursday night in Toronto on the road, okay? And end this series. You're laying 1.5, totals 209, end the series. And if that means Embiid's got to take over because James Harden is a unwilling participant, then so be it. And I just don't know. I really don't know, to be honest with you. All right, quick timeout. We'll close that hour number 1. All right, closing out hour number 1.
generations. You don't have to get trapped in your business. Call the commercial insurance professionals at Glen Insurance today at 1-888-OK-GLEN. That's 1-888-OK-GLEN. Or visit gleninsurance.com. Glen Insurance. Exceptional people, superior results.
Dr. Charles McCabe is on a mission to eliminate back pain while helping each individual achieve optimum wellness right here in the Delaware Valley.
I was in such pain that I couldn't even walk. I would go to sleep and I would literally pull my hair through the feet. Since the day we came in here, I feel like I was raised with a
All right, what do we got here? Closing out hour number 1. Appreciate you guys staying with me. And then we'll see if we can get our guy Jovan Alford for hour number 2. And as I mentioned, we're working on a lot of different things with the YouTube channel. We're going to be doing some remote broadcasts as well. So I definitely encourage you guys to keep us locked in wherever you may be tuning in from, out west, Midwest, down south, Carolinas, Georgias, Florida. We always say hello to everyone that chimes in. So appreciate it. Some good baseball games on today. NBA playoffs, man. It's just a different animal with the NBA playoffs. Absolutely crazy. All right. All right, a couple minutes to play with in hour number 1. We'll see if we can track down Jovan Alford. Hour number 2 joins us with a little Philly perspective. We kind of run through the gamut of lines, what's going on. NFL draft Thursday. We blink, and there we go. This draft to me, it doesn't really seem like it's sexy, so to speak, right? It doesn't seem like this is a sexy draft. So I don't think it is. And I know you're going to get some players when we talk about the quarterbacks. I'm not enamored with these quarterbacks. I don't think a lot of my guests have been enamored with these quarterbacks. Look, I want to know what's going to happen with the Giants, right? Because the Giants have a bunch of picks. Whether they go offensive line, whether they go defensive line, edge rusher, they have to get it right. They have to hit, because if they don't, look, we know they're going to struggle. We know they're going to be a bad team again. That's nothing new, but you would also love to see a little bit of competitiveness. You want to see a good product on the field. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, hey, go out and win, right? I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say is just give me something competitive where I can kind of hang my hat on. And we haven't seen that in years past. And that's kind of been the disgrace and debacle of the New York Football Giants. And that's why a lot of people, a lot of fans like myself get so ticked off and aggravated, because they're not even remotely playing competitive football. They're not. And as a fan, you should have a problem with that, because you're paying for tickets, merchandising, travel. You're watching these games. You're investing your time, your energy, your passion in a product. And what are they giving you back? They're giving you back garbage. And that's not a good thing. And that's not what people want. So you got round 1, 8 o'clock Thursday, rounds 2 and 3 Friday, the 29th, rounds 4 of 7 if you're a diehard, Saturday, April 30th in Vegas, by the way, site of Shakur Stevenson's fight We'll get in a little more boxing tomorrow in the 5 o'clock hour as well, because you got some, again, marquee matchups coming up. And we'll even talk a little TBL with the break. We are through the All-Star break, and Atlantic City, the Gambit's already out and running with a big win over the weekend against Tri-State. They are absolutely just on fire right now. 6 straight 9-3 in the Northeast region of the basketball league. All right, so with that being said, as I mentioned, we'll close out hour number 1. We'll come back on the other side. Jovan Alford, we'll see if we can track him down. We'll talk some lines with him. We'll get into the NBA playoffs, because obviously there were a couple other teams playing besides the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets. Where are you at with Ben Simmons, by the way? I mean, where can you possibly be at with Ben Simmons? A disgrace of a disgrace, right? You got the Heat laying 4.5 tonight trying to close out the Hawks. You got Memphis right now in a series that is tied 2-2 against the T-Wolves. Phoenix knotted up. How crazy is this? 2-2 against the Pelicans, and Phoenix is laying 6.5. So, folks, just because you see it on paper and you think right away teams are going to get blown out, that's not always the case. All right, with that being said, fast approaching the 5 o'clock hour, sports flash time. We'll come back. We'll reset the table. We got 60 in the book, 60 to play with on the other side at 5. Keep it locked in to a Tuesday edition of BYP right here down the shore on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio. All right. So we're going to end number 1.